Hi all, welcome to Code Effectively. Today we are going to dive into another programming language known as Swift programming language. In this video we will first see like what is Swift programming language and like what is the need of learning this programming language. So let's go into deep and see. So basically when someone asks like why do I need to learn Swift? I have so many other programming languages Java, C, C++, then why Swift? So the first answer is like what is Swift and why Swift? You can combine in these answers like Swift is a programming language which is used for iOS development. Okay, so what does iOS development means? Like you have seen like for the products, Apple products, basically Apple products requires iOS development, or we say people who develop products or application software for Apple products, they used to use Swift programming language and they are using and they are called as iOS developers. How and why? Let me explain you. Like Apple products, for instance, we know like Apple products are MacBook, iPhone, iPad, and many more. Okay, so we are taking these as of now. So we have many more. We have Apple watches, we have Apple speaker, and many more. Okay, so then in order like if a person comes up to me and says, hey, I just want to develop a weather app for my iPhone. Okay, or a person says like I want to develop a shopping app for my iPhone just as of Amazon and all. Okay, so I have started my own business and I want like you should develop a shopping website for my iPhone, and that also an app also. So for developing the app you cannot go to Android applications or you cannot go to directly your Visual Studio and other, so you require Apple programming language. So Apple supports Swift programming language. In order to develop this shopping app you need to know Swift programming language so that you can develop applications that run on Apple systems or app on Apple products like MacBook, iPhone or iPad. And those people who develop applications for iPhone, iPad, MacBook or other Apple products only, those are known as iOS developer. So we know like Apple has an operating system like our Windows laptop has its own operating system. In the same way we also have our operating system, like you say or I say like hey, I need an operating system. So how I need an operating system? Basically let me just erase this out first and then we will discuss more into depth. Okay, so now what we can say is I have a Windows operating system. When you are using Windows laptop you say I have Windows 11 operating system. Okay, and if you are using Apple MacBook then you say that I have a Monterey operating system. Or when you use Apple mobiles you say like I have iOS operating system. People who use Android phones they say I have Snapdragon and other operating system whatever they are using. So in the same way for those who are working on Apple operating system they are known as iOS developers. Okay, so what this means, this is not meaning like iPhone operating system, it means like iOS operating system. So I here stand for iDevice, it means iDevice operating system. Okay, iDevice people can generally guess it. iDevice means any of the Apple products, that could be MacBook operating system or that could be iPhone operating system and so on. So people who need to develop applications for Apple products require Swift programming language. They need to know Swift programming language in order to develop these. Okay, so now let me give you a glimpse like how this Swift works. So basically Swift, now you know why do we require Swift programming language. So this Swift, like before Swift was introduced on 2nd of June 2014. So you will say now ma'am before 2014 there were Apple products, but how they were developed? So basically those products were developed on a programming language known as Objective-C. But later on in 2014 Apple said I will develop my own programming language and we will code in that in order to develop the applications or my softwares. So then after 2014 Apple introduced us to Swift programming language and we started to work on Swift. Okay, so now being Objective-C, Swift is basically related to Objective-C because Objective-C, after Objective-C only Swift was developed. Okay, so now you will say which paradigm Swift follows. There should be a question like, as we know, C uses principle POP. Okay, so programming, we have some programming paradigms. So Java uses OOPS. Okay, and Python also uses OOPS. In the same way, you could ask like, ma'am, which programming paradigm Swift follows. So we can say, as of now, it's a question that has to be taken in detail, but as of now, for the introduction, we can say Swift follows OOPS paradigm and POP. Here POP stands for protocol oriented programming language. Okay, so you need to make sure like it is protocol. Okay, because some people might get confused like what is POP in that, and POP is also used in C programming language, so you need to know like which POP we are talking about. So that is very important part. Okay, so this is protocol oriented programming language. Okay, so now after this, you know like Swift follows both type. Okay, when someone asks Swift is pop or oops, you can say it follows both programming language. Okay, simple. Now why I was saying what is protocol only, because Swift follows procedural oriented programming language. So you might not confuse with this pop and this pop. So this is protocol oriented programming language. Basically oriented programming language was developed on the principle of OOPS. So that's why you can say Swift is a pop oriented programming language, but directly indirectly it was developed from OOPS also, and Swift today also follows OOPS concept. So OOP and pop would be the correct answer, like Swift follows OOPS. OOP means object oriented programming language and POP means protocol oriented programming language. So you have to say like it follows both the paradigms. Okay, so why? Because in protocols people who can relate with Java, they can say like in OOPS we require object and classes. Okay, inheritance, encapsulation and other things, and whereas in protocol is just like interface that we used to use in Java. So these protocols are very similar to interface in Swift. Okay, so if you know interface in Java, then you can correlate with protocols. Simple. Okay, so you can just correlate with that. And here similarly we use object and classes in Swift, so that's why it's an OOPS programming language. Okay, so you need to know these things. So like OOPS and POP, and OOP could be, you can say, is a super, like here we can say it's OOPS, and after that many changes and modifications made, it is OOPS, and then POP was formed. After OOPS it was POP. So yes, it indirectly follows OOPS, so we have to make it sure like it is OOPS and POP oriented programming language. Okay, so now another question like people would be asking, like if we do not have MacBook, so how we can go for the applications development using Swift? So first of all, you need to know Swift. For Swift, people who have MacBook, they can use Xcode that could be downloaded from your app store itself. That is a free of cost. You can download Xcode at free of cost. It is of around 12 GB, so you need to be patient while downloading. It might take around 1 hour to download depending upon your internet speed, so do not panic. And for those who do not have MacBook, so they can just directly go to online Swift compiler. Any of the Swift compiler online would work, and you can just have a practice over the Swift programming language. Till then, for the next video, I request you to kindly just go and search for an online Swift compiler, and those who have MacBook, they can just download Xcode from the App Store in order to get a heads on. That's it for this video. Stay tuned.